Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today once again we have Aaron from Minecraft Phenom 08 back to talk a little bit of tech, hardware, and news in general before the weekend here. Actually, by the time this is posted, it'll actually be Sunday. Jack's in the background again.
Yeah.
Whatever. We'll roll with it. If there's a dog barking in the background, it's a dog being weird. So first up today, we're looking at the PowerColor Red Dragon, not to be confused with the Red Devil RX Vega 56 in this case. And what's unique about this, and what's annoying about this article in general too from Anantech, is that this particular Vega 56 has a really short PCB, and what annoys me is there's only one picture where it's even a little bit clear how far that PCB extends, and that's the second from the last picture. And you can kind of see it. It cuts off right after that PCIe slot there, and that's the end of the actual PCB. Obviously, the cooler on this thing is still really, really beefy. But the speculation here is that that opens up this card for down the road more like Mini-ITX type sized RX Vega 56s.
Which would be interesting, especially for people like you who like to build little systems.
Well, my problem with it though is, the thing with ITX builds in general is power supplies are quite a bit more expensive for the Mini-ITX builds because there's so many fewer of them, and they also have lower power wattage anyways.
Are they of the SFX variety?
Yes.
Okay.
So, there are like your 600, 650 watt power supplies, but they're more expensive than like their ATX counterparts. And you know, that just adds cost. And most ITX systems, like take the Node 202 that I have, it came with a 450 watt power supply, and Vega 56 and Vega in general is kind of known for being power hungry. And if you want to pair that with a really powerful CPU, then you might start to run kind of close to that power threshold, unless you're gonna up yourself to that, like the 600 watt one.
I don't know if you watched, but Jay's 2 cents actually just built a PC. I think it was a Mini-ITX. But anyways, he originally had a 1080 Ti in his, but he had to swap that out for a 1080 because his 500 watt power supply could not handle the 1080 Ti.
Yeah, I did see that one. So, like my Node 202, and I bring that up because the 1070 and the Vega 56 run very similar to each other. Depending on which one you overclock more, they come with very similar numbers. My Node 202 for a while ran with the Ryzen 5 1600 paired with a GTX 1070. And the advantage there, of course, is GTX 1070s already have Mini-ITX sized cards, mini 1070s, and they also take quite a bit less power, and you're going to get roughly the same gaming performance for it. And no one is, at least no one is building these with the idea of mining with their Mini-ITX system. Now, sure, some people out there may. I mean, I have a Mini-ITX system that I let mine Ethereum in its spare time, but that chassis is also, I mean, calling it a true Mini-ITX build is a little bit of a misnomer, because I think it's the H200i is a really roomy Mini-ITX build.
Yep. Right now, something you said got me looking up prices for graphics cards.
Well,
said something about mining.
Yeah, and all of the graphics cards, actually I have a Vega 56 pulled up on Newegg right now. Like, the cheapest one is a blower style for $700 for the Vega 56. And I know that 1070s right now, if you can find them, are cheaper, and 1070 Ti's, I believe, are even cheaper as well.
I would guess so, because I saw 1070 Ti's for about $600, and that was like a week ago.
Yeah,
and it looks like they're about the same right now. You can find it for about $590 if you're looking real hard. But
right, and like, yeah, so there's an EVGA hybrid one for $660.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
You're not gonna put that in a Mini-ITX system, but you're still talking. Here's an open box one just sitting on Newegg for $607. That's in stock. So the 1070 Ti's are definitely cheaper, and the 1070 Ti is definitely going to outperform a Vega 56. So,
Yes.
so my thing is that's awesome that AMD may have some low profile or not low profile, but smaller Vega 56s out there that could fit into smaller builds. But the issue is, I don't know that there's really a market for that because of the characteristics of that card versus NVIDIA's cards.
Yep, that power draw. Unfortunately,
I guess it's also worth noting while we're on the topic, the Red Devil that PowerColor also makes, the cooler on that card is a triple slot cooler, and it looks like the Red Dragon is only a double slot cooler. So if that does it for anyone that's trying to sort of split the difference between taking up 3 slots versus 2, the Red Dragon is a little bit smaller. But it's kind of crazy to me that you have a Vega 56, which should not be as hot as it is for the performance it's giving you, and PowerColor finds the need to have these triple fan gigantic coolers on it.
Gotta cool it.
Well, I've always been more of the, and it annoys me, and if you're looking at the pictures of the Vega 56, the Red Dragon one, the cooler is really tall, and even that's always bothered me a little bit. I like the coolers that are kind of flush with the brackets. Like my GTX 1080 Ti is it's an SC2, and it has just that nice flush. It can fit in almost any build that can accommodate a full-size graphics card. You don't have to worry about it coming out too far from the motherboard and interfering with a side panel that might be close. So I don't know. That's just my personal preference. But a 1080 Ti, which gives you way better performance, makes do with a much smaller cooler and stays perfectly chilly under normal use. So AMD, Vega was a good effort, but it's just another generation. AMD needs to get power just under control.
Yeah. Hopefully they can. We'll see.
Well, hopefully if nothing else here in a few years, it sounds like Intel might be competing on the actual GPU side of things as well.
We'll see if that actually happens.
That would be interesting. That would be very interesting.
That would really hurt AMD.
Yes, it would. I think. Because then they're competing with players that are much bigger with much deeper pockets than them on both fronts.
Yep.
I mean, they're already doing that with NVIDIA and Intel, but then they would have another person or another competitor with deeper pockets on the GPU front.
Yep.
So hopefully that CPU side of AMD can stay really competitive, though. And you never know. AMD, there has been talks over the past year or two that AMD could be bought out by a larger corporation that would have deeper pockets, which would also be kind of fascinating to see.
Yeah, it would be. Have you heard any specific names or just
there were some names kicked around a couple months ago, and I off the top of my head I can't remember what companies were kicked around. And I don't even know that it was clear what the company would have done with AMD. I mean, you would assume that they would take advantage of the CPU and GPU know-how. And then there was a rumor a while back that Intel could even look at acquiring AMD for their graphics. But then, in my mind, then Intel runs up against antitrust with CPUs being basically an Intel product at that point.
By chances, were one of the potential buyers Qualcomm?
It may have been. It may actually have been. Which would make sense, too.
Yeah, December 5th, I'm seeing stuff of potential.
That would make sense.
Because they do mobile processors, correct? Like the Snapdragon?
Yes. They are primarily, at least to my knowledge, they're there's Apple processors, and then there's some other mobile chip makers, but I believe Qualcomm is by far the largest. And they don't just do processors either. They do, I believe they do like LTE modems and that sort of thing.
I think you're right.
So definitely not my area of expertise, but it would make sense, at least in my mind, for a mobile chip maker to also, if they had an opportunity to get a larger market. Because, and I could be wrong on this too, I feel like their enterprise side of things with like EPYC processors and on the server side may be where Qualcomm would try to really hone in. I don't know that they would really care quite as much about just the individual desktop market.
Yeah, the server market's, I think, where the money is on the CPU side, or the big money is, I should say. because that sector is growing. Data is growing.
So while we're looking at Vega 56 in general, and we were just mentioning some GPU prices, those are definitely down over the past couple weeks compared to where they were. Obviously, they're still way too high for my liking.
Yeah.
But I was looking earlier today, and you can get things like a GTX 1060, 6GB version for around $350 to $370 readily available. There's
That is.
so
That's not cool.
moving on to Ethereum prices here.
In the pooper.
That is probably, and I haven't looked at Zcash, but I assume Zcash is probably in the same boat since all crypto seems to be down. Ethereum is down at right now on CoinDesk 377, and of course we're recording Friday, and this video hasn't gotten posted for a couple days, so this could all change. With the way mining and all that is, but definitely one of the reasons for that is for the drop in GPU prices is the drop in profitability of mining with graphics cards, and then there's also the scare, at least among miners, of ASIC cards or ASIC components coming out for Ethereum specifically.
I saw that, and that will probably, if that actually is a thing, then we will see a lot of used graphics cards on the market in short order after those release.
Right, because they'll just, if they're on the same order that the Bitcoin ASICs were in outperforming GPUs, then yeah, you'll see those things. First of all, they'll get gobbled up for thousands of dollars instantly, and of course that will drive up the difficulty of mining Ethereum, which will render GPUs very unprofitable.
Yep.
If profitable at all, they will be barely profitable. So you'll see, I think what you'll see is, those large mining farms that can't mine Ethereum profitably, either they'll switch to a currency that may be still profitable. I don't know if Zcash will be or not. Or if they can't, they'll just unload a ton of cards.
Which will be great for gamers. Well, great and bad, because you might get a card that has about 3 months left in its life or whatever.
Right.
Because it's been ran to the wall.
And that's the playing the lottery. Hopefully, though, and the counter to that is hopefully there's enough used cards that just blast into the market that even if you buy a card, you're getting it hopefully below MSRP, and it's not a big deal if it dies after 6 months or a year. Because
for a lot of people it would be, but
what I'm saying is if you get it under MSRP, then you already got a good deal on it, probably because the market is flooded with those used cards, and hopefully then you saved enough money that you can just buy another used one, or just have a big chunk of money left over that you can actually buy a new card, because hopefully then too the new card market can catch back up and restabilize.
I kind of think it'll catch back up in a few weeks. If
If
prices continue to plummet like they have. Like, I've already noticed, I'm on ethermine.com right now, and the hash rate is much lower, but it's decently lower than what it has been at its peak. I'm pretty sure it's been over 80 terahash per second. Now it's at 67, which means there are a considerable amount of people that have stopped mining through their site.
I think what we're gonna see is I think, like you said, the market's gonna stabilize in a couple weeks, a month, depending on how fast used cards hit the market, depending on production, because I have no clue what type of production is going on with the GPU side right now. But I also think that prices are going to be above MSRP, like for this generation at least, permanently. Because not just because of the mining side, but also because of the cost of memory.
I think you might be right on the NVIDIA side, because I've heard rumors that NVIDIA has stopped producing their 10 series cards in preparation for their 11 series or their 2000 series, whatever they decide to name it.
The latest rumor that I saw floating around this week was that the Turing cards, the 11 series, is what the rumor mill has called, or switched to calling them now. At least
that's
as
what
of
I've
this
seen
week.
As well.
It marked sort of July as the target month.
Also,
and it wasn't clear whether it was announcement or actual release. And the other side to it is, will there be quantity available for people to actually get their hands on them?
Yeah, that's true. Another thing is I watched a Gamers Nexus video, and Steve had an interview with someone from SK Hynix. But anyways, they said they are going to be starting a GDDR6 production in about 3 months. And there's speculation that the GDDR6 is going to be for the new NVIDIA cards.
That would be interesting.
Yes. So, I mean...
That would be interesting.
Who knows what's true? That's one thing I have to say. But if NVIDIA, for whatever reason, is not producing their 10 series cards anymore, and if you go to their website, it seems like all their 10 series cards are sold out, at least last time I checked. But it would be interesting if they already stopped production and they can't really start production of their 11 series cards until they get that GDDR6, if that's true.
Yeah, so
we'll see what's true.
So regardless, well, if that does end up being the case, then it seems like despite minings maybe going out of vogue, then it still may be a rough year for getting your hands on a GPU at a good price.
On a new NVIDIA card, it seems like that could be.
Well, even the old
difficult.
ones, if they're not producing more old ones, the ones that are already in stores will still go for above MSRP because gamers, it won't be as expensive. But you know, as prices start to trickle down and down and down, gamers are going to be jumping on those for fear, if nothing else, for fear that supply will be gone and they won't be able to get them at any price again. So.
I think you'll see a bunch of new, or not new ones, used ones flooding the market soon if prices are delayed.
Really hope that's the case.
Because a lot of people do. A lot of people do.
That would be really good. That'd be really good. So, moving on to the Asus Republic of Gamers Crosshair 7. This is an X470 board. At least pictures of it have leaked. This is from videocards.com, and these are some nice quality pictures that we have. And really, there doesn't the article that goes with it details some of the changes from the Crosshair 6 from the X370 version of this board, but there really aren't many physical changes between the boards. Slight swap in heatsink, a couple less ports in favor of a PS2 port. But the big thing here is the X470 will support the new technologies for the second generation Ryzen chips like Precision Boost 2.0. Which the existing X370 boards, I believe, will not support. So if you're looking to get the most out of your Ryzen 2 or your second-gen Ryzen chips, then X470 would probably be the way to go. And that's, of course, if you don't already have a motherboard. If you do, I can't really recommend upgrading.
I would amend your statement right there to, if you do not plan to overclock, then the 470 or the X470 boards will be for you.
If you do plan to overclock, then that's not gonna, precision boost and all that's not gonna do you much good anyways.
Yep, exactly.
What's worth pointing out, and the Crosshair 6 had it as well, but the CPU pins or connectors, there is an 8-pin as well as a 4-pin EPS connector up in the top left. And and the thing about those is, I believe Asus only says you really need the 8-pin.
Well, if you need more power, you have it.
I believe the extra connector is there mostly for extreme overclockers.
Which is great because this is one of the most expensive boards. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, and the existing Crosshair the Crosshair 6 is, I think I just checked, it was about $250 right now. It's obviously down a lot since it launched. It launched at something like $350 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
That sounds about right.
But it has come down quite a bit, which is fine by me. I mean, the lower cost motherboards, the better.
Yeah, right now I would never buy a board that is this expensive, but who knows?
No, and I did once upon a time. I bought my first PC build. There were some things that I bought for it that were just sort of poor decisions. And one of those was the Overkill motherboard I got. And I mean, it was a great motherboard, and I still have it, and it still works. And that was from circa 2013. And it overclocked quite well and all that. It was a Sabertooth Revision 2. But and it's something I just really didn't understand at the time fully. It's that, you know, you can get a good overclock from a much cheaper board and then spend that extra money on getting a significantly better graphics card.
Yep, and that is usually money well spent.
Right. So unless you're really needing the extra overclocking headroom, or you really need some of the features that may be involved with the Crosshair 7, I have been thrilled with my my Asus Prime X370.
As well as I have.
Been thrilled with it. So, and there are some other cards that are even cheaper. So, or not cards, but motherboards that are even cheaper than the Prime, which I think is like $130 ish to $150. Depends when you get it. But just for anyone that was wondering, that has leaked. And sticking with the motherboard theme here, Tech Yes City, which is a channel that I do subscribe to, I believe is in Thailand. Yeah, in the description of their video they have it. In Bangkok, Thailand. He ran across B360 motherboards on the shelves at a couple different retailers, and of course he bought one because the B360, and I know this is really confusing because motherboard numbering right now, B350 is for AMD's first generation Ryzen chips. B360 are the unreleased motherboards for Coffee Lake processors on the Intel side of things, which are more budget than the Z370 boards. So making chips like the i5-8400 that much more attractive. And one of the things that he notes, and I have it on the screen here, is his sort of thermal camera showing that the VRMs are actually running with an 8400 running under full load at around 80 degrees Celsius, a little bit north of that. It looks like the hot spots, which are fairly warm. And the concern, of course, here is when you put in a more powerful chip, that you may actually run those even hotter. And although 81 degrees is not by any means in danger of killing any of those power delivery components, running really hot VRMs over a long period of time might be of concern. Yep. So, hopefully that's more of an anomaly and it's really not a big deal. The other argument to that, though, the other side of it is, you know, why would you pair an 8700K with a B360 board?
You don't know what you're doing. That's why.
Especially when there are some relatively affordable Z370 boards. It's not like they're crazy expensive to go ahead and get the Z370. It's annoying if you have a locked processor and you're forced onto the Z370 and to get the most expensive chipset, like the case has been since Coffee Lake came out, Intel.
Yeah, that's only, what, 5 months ago?
Yeah,
Coffee Lake. Seems like a long time.
Coffee Lake seemed like just a really rushed launch. And on top of that, giving consumers no choice with more budget-friendly boards is just kind of annoying. It's the type of thing that makes someone like me that, you know, I like gaming with my main system, but it's not the main thing I do. And I know that I sacrifice a little bit of performance by sticking with Ryzen versus going Coffee Lake.
In some cases.
But it's the type of thing where I'm like, you know, I'll eat my 10% loss in performance because I already get good enough performance anyways in the vast majority of everything I do. There's not something that I try to do with my computer that I can't do. So, but it's stuff like that. It's kind of anti-consumer decisions like that make me be like, you know what? I'll stick with AMD even if they haven't caught up completely. Because they're getting closer. And maybe they're not on par yet with Intel, but I'll stick with AMD just because they seem like they're making more consumer-friendly decisions right now.
Yeah, they do.
And that may definitely change. But, I mean, just a couple examples. First of all, throwing a ton of cores and threads at a modern CPU and forcing Intel's hand with that was awesome. Having, at launch, motherboards available that are more budget-friendly than X370 boards. Awesome. Sticking with one socket and having backward compatibility, or rather forwards compatibility, where I can buy a motherboard and later upgrade my CPU down the road and not have to replace my motherboard. That's awesome. So AMD's doing a lot right on the CPU side of things, so I'm perfectly happy supporting them. One of the reasons that I own, 4 Ryzen chips. Other than testing things out for the channel. But all my main systems are Ryzen chips, except for my living room PC right now, and that's the i5-8400, which I also got for testing purposes. But you have the motherboard, you have the CPU, might as well use it.
And it's a good chip.
Yeah, well, it's a phenomenal chick. Yeah, it's a phenomenal chip. Yeah. But yeah, Intel doesn't have me excited about the Intel brand right now, for sure.
Quick question. Are the 400 series motherboards for Ryzen compatible with the first generation Ryzen chips?
I believe so.
So they are forward and backward compatible.
I believe so.
So that's pretty awesome.
The catch, of course, being the new motherboards really exist because of some of the new technologies in the second gen Ryzen chips, like Precision Boost 2. So but also to my knowledge, you can't mix and match because Precision Boost 2 does not work with first generation Ryzen chips, and you can't plug a second generation Ryzen chip into a first gen Ryzen board and have those technology. They have to be both second gen to take advantage of that. But they're not game changing enough that if you're just upgrading your CPU, I don't think it's worth buying a new motherboard for it.
No. And plus, both of us are in the group of people who would just overclock, and we don't really see that precision boost gain anyway.
Right.
So I mean, that's one less thing.
We're gonna get our performance across all our cores.
Yep.
Because that's what we do. The last thing I do want to mention, since we are again on that Ryzen topic, is Ryzen prices right now in sort of anticipation of what I believe is the April 19th launch.
Yes,
of the second gen Ryzen chips, at least the R7s and R5s. Ryzen prices across the board are kind of down, so you can get a Ryzen 3 1200 for $93, which is good because when the 2200G came out, it made the Ryzen 3 line completely obsolete.
Pretty much.
Like both of them. So good to see that. You can also get a Ryzen 5 1400 for $143 on Amazon.
Ooh, what was it at launch? 169 or something like that?
That's what its list price is. And here's the thing about, and I've said this since the beginning with Ryzen, the Ryzen 5 1400 is like the lone lower Ryzen chip that I actually would not recommend. I
really?
Think between the two, I would recommend the 1500X.
Why is that? Does it come with a cooler or does it not?
The 1400 comes with the Stealth, the 1500X comes with the Spire, and the 1500X has double the cache.
I didn't realize the cooler difference, but yeah,
double
the cache
L3
also.
Cache. Since you're paying $17 more right now, the 1500X is $160, so about $17 difference, and you get a cooler that will let you overclock that thing to probably 3.9, 3.85, somewhere in that range. Depending on the chip quality, you may even be able to get to 4 gigahertz if you get a really good chip that doesn't need a lot of extra voltage. And then you can save that extra $15 that you would have saved on getting a good cooler for your 1400 to get it overclocked to the same number.
Yep, that's true.
Plus you still get that extra cache.
CACHE.
Yeah, so that's my so that's at least my rationale for why I would prefer the 1500X.
I see. That makes sense.
But then, of course, the thing with especially the Ryzen 5s are so tightly compact. The other side to that argument is you could spend another $17 and get yourself right now a Ryzen 5 1600 for $176.
Actually, I would probably do that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you can spare another $15, $16, $17, you're getting 2 extra cores and 4 extra threads. Like, it seems like a no-brainer.
It's such a good chip.
It's such a good chip at such a great price. So, and then of course, if you're still interested in the Ryzen 7 line, definitely not as steep of discounts, but you can still get a Ryzen 7 1700 for $280. And
or 1700X for $290, correct?
Yeah. And probably not worth the extra $10.
Probably not, because you don't have the cooler.
If you already have a cooler that's compatible, then okay, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't have a compatible cooler, the 1700 is the way to go, because you could hit 3.8, and you can always get a cooler later on down the road and push that possibly up to 3.95 or even 4 if you get lucky.
Yep.
But dropping those prices because Ryzen 2 is right around the corner, so unless you sort of are perfectly good with Ryzen 1 for quite a while, I don't know that I would really recommend jumping on this ship. Just because you can wait and play the wait and see approach, because I don't see these prices going back up. The only thing that might derail that is if they go out of stock completely. So it would still probably be worth your while to wait and see, because I honestly would be surprised if they went out of stock instantly after launch. I guess you never know. Maybe AMD just figured out the numbers that well, but probably not the case.
Probably not.
But if you are in the market for a CPU and you need it now, definitely a good option on the Ryzen side of things.
Yep.
Okay. Any closing thoughts that you have about any of the topics or otherwise?
I'm just looking forward to Ryzen 2 and graphics cards maybe coming out this summer.
Yes.
Pretty much that.
I'll be in Cancun when graphics cards are hitting the market, supposedly, roughly.
Supposedly. We'll see. We'll see what actually happens. Who knows? Maybe AMD has something up their sleeve. Probably not.
On the graphics card side, I'm not.
So I said probably not.
Yeah,
Don't know if you heard that.
We can hope, though. We can dream.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will leave a link to probably some of these Ryzen chips in case you're interested in checking those out, as well as the articles mentioned in this video. I'll also leave a link to Aaron's channel. That'd be Minecraft Phenom 08 in case you're a Minecraft fan. And you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware, the same tag for everyone's convenience, including my own. But I will also let YouTube queue up a few more videos from my channel for everyone to watch. Thanks for dropping by, and we'll see you guys in the next video.